Hello there. My name is Anjiro Gazanga from Branded Change, and I will be taking you through the Farewill case study. So Farewill is a UK-based organization looking to change the way the world deals with death. Farewill's purpose is that they want the process surrounding death to be easier, friendlier, and cheaper. Their proposition to achieve this is online wills, probates, and funeral services. So Farewill is blending smart technology, outstanding customer service, and their team of legal experts to make everything to deal with death easier, friendlier, and cheaper for people all over the UK. Their target audience is millions of everyday Brits who'd otherwise never invest in a will or would find it too expensive. And so to understand how Farewill arrived at these descriptions, we use the insight generator tool. The insight generating tool is a 4-step tool, and we look at the observation that they have made in their environment, the dilemma that people are facing, the need that they have, and then we distill this into a short, compelling phrase we call the insights. Farewill has recognized that dealing with death is hard enough, and the paperwork that comes after in dealing with death and funerals is costly, complicated, intimidating, and often involves trips to a solicitor, trips to funeral homes, which makes it even more expensive. Death in the UK is currently the highest it's ever been, and was estimated at being around £10,000 in 2020, and 1 in 8 British families can actually not afford this and would fall into poverty as a result of having to deal with death. So the dilemma that Brits are facing is that the death industry is making the death process and the process of dealing with the loss of loved ones unnecessarily complicated in order to keep the prices high. So there's a need for an innovative and disruptive company to come in and make it easier, friendly, and more affordable for people all over the UK to deal with wills and funerals and probates and the administration of estates. So in short, Farewill's insight is that dealing with death is hard enough. The paperwork that comes with it should not have to be as well. To understand their audiences, we use the persona tool, and we generated 2 personas for Farewill, one of Barbara and one of Ian. So looking at the persona tool, this helps us to understand who the potential audience could be. We look at them in depth. We look at their private life, their professional life, their tech profile, their outlook on life, and where we could find them. And then we use this to understand the problems or challenges they're facing in life and how we could address this. So looking at Barbara, she is aged 37 and she lives in Edinburgh. She is divorced. She has 2 sons, aged 8 and 10. And at home, she is a typical mom. She is the breadwinner. She is the referee between them. She's cleaning and cooking for them. And also acts as their chauffeur, taking them to school and to their after-school activities, as well as driving them to soccer matches. So in her professional life, she's making about £42,000 a year. She has a Bachelor of Commerce in Human Resource Management. She has worked as an assistant HR manager in a bank. And in the past, she's also worked as a secretary. At work, she takes on HR administrative tasks, which include recruitment, record maintenance of the team, as well as payroll processing. Looking at her tech profile, she has become more tech savvy with the demands of work. She uses a desktop provided by her employer at work, and she has a personal laptop that she uses at home. And she's also bought iPads for her kids, which she also has learned how to use for herself. Then in terms of software, she uses the native apps that come on her devices, and she's also very keen on the HR management software. In terms of her outlook, Barbara is part of the generation which has seen wave after wave of growth and decline and has just been on a roller coaster. So from the parents of her generation being unemployed in the 80s to things getting better with in the 2000s and the dot-com boom, to the financial crash that came after, to austerity, to Brexit, and now COVID. Her role model would be Jules Oliver, who is Jamie Oliver's wife. And in terms of her geographical orientation, she thinks of Scotland first, London second, and the world third. We would typically hear her going after her boys and telling them that you've had more than enough screen time today. Typically, we would find Barbara at the park with her kids, at family-friendly get-togethers, or at her son's schools. She would also be attending her son's soccer matches. And when she's at home, she is probably on Netflix and she's watching The Duchess. On social media, she spends her time on Instagram and Facebook, although she's more of a consumer than a creator or participant. And she's also trying to get the hang of Twitter. So the challenges Barbara is facing in her life is that she has gone through a tough divorce. She has created a new life for herself, but it comes with a lot of responsibility. She is a single mother, and she also has the challenges that come with co-parenting. And she is also realizing that she worries a lot about her sons and what would happen to them if anything were to happen to her. She's also taking care of her own mother, and they experienced financial and legal challenges with the death of her father, which she would not wish on her sons. So she thinks that if she were to die early, she would want her kids to have money for their future, to have their future secured, and she doesn't want any of her money to go to her ex either. Our proposition from Farewill would be an online will, probate, and funeral service. So this would offer Barbara easy will writing and affordable funeral services. So how would this proposition address the challenges she's facing? By providing her with easy will writing, she can do this at on any day. She can do it at any time that works for her. And it's also at a budget that makes it a priority to get done. And it would be affordable in that she would feel that her son's inheritance is not being squandered or wasted on unimportant stuff. But at the same time, it would also give her, it would also take off the weight on her shoulders concerning their future. The alternatives that Barbara would have to choosing Farewill is that other online will writing services, such as Kiwi Online or online will drafters, and traditional in-person solicitors. Then the factors that Barbara would be considering in her decision to choose Farewill or its competitors would be the affordability of the service. So the price point is important to her, and the trust and ability to sympathize with the decision she has to make to plan for the future of her son, and to plan for the eventuality that anything could happen to her. Then we also have a different persona targeting a slightly different user. And this is the persona of Ian. And Ian is 61 and lives in Darlington. So Ian is married and his kids are older and grown up and they're in their 30s. In his private life, he enjoys watching football and hanging out with his grandkids. In his private life at home, he takes on the responsibility of walking the dog. He's also the breadwinner and he's also in charge of administration and finances at home. In his work, Ian is making about 27,700 pounds a year. He has his GCSE, which is his secondary certification. He works as a taxi driver, and in the past, he's also worked as a concierge. So jobs to be done at work is meeting and picking passengers in different locations and driving them to their destinations. In terms of tech, Ian is a low-tech user. He has an Android smartphone, but he doesn't use it as avidly as younger audiences, but he likes to receive photos of his grandkids. Then in terms of his generation and his outlook, Ian is part of the generation that was raised post-war, and he has seen the rise of mass media and later the rise of social media, the increasing usage of cell phones, and he's now seeing the effects of globalization brought about by the internet and technology. He views London as the greatest city, and something we would hear him say is he would probably be complaining about traffic. He would say that the robots are taking our jobs, and he would probably be very upset with Uber, which is also changing the landscape of taxi services. Then where we would find Ian is at St. James Park supporting Newcastle United or at sports betting spots. He enjoys family outings to watch a game of football, which he would probably be doing with his son and his grandchildren. And he reads the local newspaper between rides. And in the evening, he's watching cable television news with his wife. So the challenges that Ian is facing in his life is that he's worked for most of his life to support his family. He is the sole breadwinner, but the mortgage is still not paid off. He has a few more years to go, but he recognizes that the cab business is going downhill due to Uber and other cab hailing services, and realizes that despite being empty nesters, he and his wife still have a few more years supporting their children who are now parents and are struggling with the balance of life and marriage and their own finances. So he and his wife would like to leave their home to their children to help with their finances and their expenses and their grandchildren. But he doesn't want his son's wives to get a share of the inheritance. Then Ian is also facing the challenge that he is low literate. He has low knowledge of legal affairs, and he fears interactions with legal professionals and experts. And he's coming to and despite coming to terms with his age, he wants to make it easier for his children when his time comes. So the proposition Farewill would have for Ian would be online will and funeral services. And the solution that we would be offering him would be that he gets to choose the services he wants and needs at a fair price. And he would also feel that his money is not being wasted on unnecessary funeral costs or legal costs in his will writing services. Then he would also get expert support, and this would help him feel that he's escaping the legal complexities that are foreign to him and that he probably does not grasp too well. The alternatives he would have to choosing Farewill would be other online will writing services and traditional in-person solicitors and funeral services or insurers. Then the factors that Ian is considering in making his decision is the trust that he has in the professionalism of the services being offered, and the price point of the service is also a high factor for him. So when we think of the potential audiences and when we think of Barbara and Ian, this goes into the positioning of, goes into the consideration that Farewill would make in their positioning. So looking at the market, we would have price and trust being the key driving factors. And we would have at the highest point of this, traditional solicitors and probates, such as Arwin Mitchell, for example, which would be a law firm in the traditional sense, and they would have the highest trust in the audiences, but they would also be the most expensive alternative. Then on the complete opposite side, we would have DIY will writing services such as Lawpack, or Your Will Be Done or makeawill.co.uk. And these would be very, very affordable, which are services which are free, but then would also come with a lot of complexities and also very low trust. So Farewill would benefit from positioning themselves as having high trust in their audiences, but still being at an affordable price point. Then their positioning statement would be to get everyday Brits to trust us with their death-related affairs by positioning ourselves as the most sympathetic, affordable, and easy will writing and funeral service. So when we combine all these elements together, we get the brand strategy on a page. Farewill's purpose and the future they seek is that the process surrounding death will be easier, friendlier, and more affordable. The service that they're using to achieve this purpose is affordable online wills, probates, and funeral services. The audience and the people they need to achieve this is everyday Brits who would otherwise not invest in a will or would find it too expensive to do so. The positioning statement is how they will arrive at this purpose. And the positioning statement is to get everyday Brits to trust that Farewill is the best choice for arranging their death-related affairs and to think of Farewill as being easy, quick, and affordable. Then when we think of imagining the brand, seeing as Farewill is an already existing brand, we look at it from an outside-in perspective where we try to take it apart and we look at it through the lens of the brand thinking canvases. We use the first canvas to look at the core of the brand, the identity and the interactions, and then we use the second canvas to look at the audiences. With the first brand thinking canvas, the core of the brand is made up of the essence, the mission, the vision, the values, and the brand promises. Then we look at the identity of the brand, which is the second circle from the outermost one, which includes the visual identity of the brand and the verbal identity. Then we look at the interactions on the farthest parts of the canvas, which is where the brand will have its touch points with its audiences. So when we think of the essence is the brand simply distilled into a compact, short, and compelling phrase. Farewill's brand essence is UK's best rated death experts. When we think of the essence, we also think of it as not necessarily being outward facing or targeted at the audience, although in some cases, some brands are lucky enough to have a brand essence that doubles down as a tagline, but this is not always the case. Then when we think of the mission, the vision and the values, which are the second part of the core, Farewill's vision is to change the way the world deals with death. Their mission is to make everything to do with death easier, faster, and more affordable for people all over the UK. And what they value as a brand is simplicity, honesty, compassion, and confidentiality. When we think of the brand promises, we tend to think of these as if you stood at an altar as a brand with your audience as your partner, what promises or vows are you making to deliver to your audiences? Then Farewill is promising fast and easy will writing services from the comfort of their audience's homes, hassle-free help in arranging funerals, clear and transparent prices, peace of mind in handling the legal complexities and paperwork that comes with death, expert support from a skilled team to check and guide clients, unlimited updates and amendments to their wills, then world-class security systems to guarantee the privacy and protection of client data. As a tech service and dealing with estates and a lot of personal and confidential information, this is a great promise to be making to their audiences in the age of increased awareness around data protection and data privacy. Then they're also promising to be caring and thoughtful in their customer service at every point of the client's journey. So despite trying to simplify the topic of death, they are not trying to undermine this in any way. Then when we look at the identity, we look at both the visual and the verbal identity. So in terms of the verbal identity, they are technology-led. They're a technology-led brand. So they do have they do use language surrounding technology and how their services are delivered online. They are easy and clear in their communication, so they're only a phone call away. We are the simpler way to deal with death. And in this example of a post that they make on their social media, what will you do in the next half hour? Watch cat videos, get annoyed about Brexit, or write my will. So they do try to simplify and take the topic of death out of the taboo sphere and make it something that can be conversational despite the gloomy nature that surrounds it. They are light-hearted and they use a warm spoken tone of voice, but at the same time, they do maintain the sensitivities around the difficulties of dealing with death. Their direct and easy to understand messaging is crucial in their target audiences. So some of their audiences are not very well equipped around legal affairs, but they simplify that and make it easy to understand. Then they also bring warmth to a topic that is often fraught with fear and tension, and that is also not spoken widely about. And so they're trying to make it easier to have conversations around death and how to deal with death and loss and the arrangements and legal affairs that come with that. Then in their visual identity, they use warm, bright and memorable imagery. Their color palette includes a soft yellow and white color scheme, which takes away from the usual stark image of death that would probably be thought of as being darker. Then they have a friendly and approachable illustration style. So they have a cast of characters created around them. So they have a mascot, Blob, who is presented as a soft, protective giant, and who is used in Farewill's communication to try and soften the topic of death and create a representation of caring. So by planning for your death and planning ahead for your funeral, that you're actually caring for your loved ones and creating a hassle-free arrangement for them to deal with loss. Then for the brand's interactions, for their products and services, they offer will writing, which is online and from the comfort of your home. This can be done online. It can be done through phone calls, and they have a team of experts available to guide their customers. They also provide probate services, which could vary from authenticating wills, locating and determining the value of assets, and settling estate accounts and distributing them to their rightful beneficiaries. Then they also offer funeral services, from burials to cremations, and anything else that could be involved. Then in terms of places and events, they are essentially a tech brand, and so attend the tech summit, and tech and legal startup spaces and media. And so they do still exist in spaces and events where tech brands could be found. Then when we look at their communication channels, their CEO is quite vocal. He takes on interviews on podcasts and morning shows on cable TV, such as BBC and This Morning, to create brand awareness and to contribute to the demystification of the topic of death and to pull the topic of death out of the taboo and get more people talking about it. Then they also use Facebook to engage their audiences and give a more contemporary and human face to the topic. And a lot of their audiences engage with them there. They use Twitter for brand awareness and to also get the conversation going. And they use TV ads to build brand awareness as well. Then their website also acts as a communication channel, so as well as their call center, where they provide more information on the topic, more information on will writing, probates, and funeral services, and to guide users and audiences on various topics. Then in terms of partnerships and collaborations, the brand has categorically partnered with charities all over the UK to effect gifting into wills. And so as people are becoming more aware of how they could write their own wills, Farewill has partnered with charities to make them aware that they could gift charities through their wills. And so some charities in the UK have benefited from this. Then in terms of people, talent, and behavior, their CEO is Dan Garrett, who has vocal online presence, and he is the brand's key spokesperson in creating awareness and in making it easier for people to contribute to the topic of death and to have this conversation. Then they have also partnered with creatives such as a ceramic artist by the name of John Booth, who partnered to create colorful and unique cremation urns. Again, this went along in helping the brand demystify the topic of death. Then they have a young and multicultural team, which is unexpected in the industry of death. And the team is featured prominently on their website, and their qualified legal staff to underline the professionalism and expertise that they have in this topic. Then in terms of technology, they are a tech brand, again, and they use technology to make their products and services more accessible, and to help bring will writing, probate, and funeral planning services to make them more accessible to their audience. Then, as we look at their audiences, we use the second brand thinking canvas. The brand essence remains the same, and we look at three main audiences. So we look at the people who are potentially who are potential will writers. We look at bereaved people, and then we look at the press. So when we think of people who could potentially be writing wills, these are people who have had a major shift in their lives, people who are having children, people who bought their first home, people who've gotten engaged or married, and in the case of Barbara, people who have also gotten a divorce. And what we want them to think about Farewill is that Farewill is a fast, easy, and affordable way to take care of my loved ones by writing a will. Then how Farewill will get them to think this is by simplifying the legal journey and simplifying the language that goes into will writing. So this is by being friendly and sympathetic in their brand and in their advertisement and their communication, and through all customer testimonials such as the use of Trustpilot, which is a third-party testimonial platform. Then for bereaved people, these are people who have recently lost a loved one, and Farewill wants them to think that in this difficult time, they are the experts who would help them arrange their funeral services, arrange an affordable yet respectful send-off for their loved one. And how they will do this is by simplifying the way people say goodbye to their loved ones after death. Again, a sympathetic brand would be how they would get people to think this, and their customer testimonials through Trustpilot go a long way into reinforcing this trust. Then for the press, Farewill wants them to think that they are changing the slow, expensive, inconvenient, and complicated process of dealing with death by helping everyday people make online wills and funeral arrangements all across the UK. Farewill will get them to think this through honest and verified reviews on Trustpilot from clients. And this will go into reinforcing what the brand wants them to think about them. So thanks for listening in, and this has been the Farewill case study.